how's everybody doing? We've had a really busy summer and I haven't gotten a whole lot done in the kitchen, but today I'm going to do a little grafting. It finally cooled off enough. So the first thing I did was sterilize my cutters with some rubbing alcohol, and I'm just going to clip these leaves off. And this is all new growth on the lemon tree. Probably scissors would be better for this. Yeah, actually scissors would be better. Every tool you use for this you want to sterilize with rubbing alcohol, just so you don't transmit disease to your cuttings. And looking at this tree, this right here and this right here are two successful grafts that I did already. I did several, but when I first started this project I didn't realize how the heat would affect it. So I'm just taking all these leaves off. And one thing that's important when you do these grafts is you want to make sure you have your branch faced in the right direction when you attach it to the tree. So first we get new growth cuttings. We remove them with a sterile tool. We take the leaves off. And I have a wet paper towel out here. So once I get the leaves off and I trim these to right about here, I'm going to keep them wrapped in a wet paper towel while I'm working with them so they don't dry out. I'm so happy that these two grafts worked, because this was a mandarin tree. It was supposed to be a mandarin tree, but the rootstock overtook the graft. The rootstock overtook the graft for the mandarin. And so we just had a beautiful, lush tree with thorny branches and no fruit. So I did a little research, and I can graft my kumquat, my grapefruit, or my lemon onto this tree. And for now I'm doing lemon. I'm really thinking about adding some grapefruit to it also. I read that you're better off only having 2 species to a tree, and I do have a grapefruit seedling that's about 3 years old that I can put the grapefruit on. So 2 citrus trees that we really like. So I'm thinking about it. I'll probably only be able to do like one little area on this tree today because we have been very busy. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these into sections that I can work with. I want to leave a spot like this in the middle of every cutting because that's where it'll leaf out. But I also want to have a little bit of a thicker area because the thicker area is easier to cut for the graft part. So we'll go like this, and like this. I'm just going to keep them facing the same direction so I don't accidentally turn them. And once I get them trimmed, I'm going to go ahead and wrap them with a thin cellophane like tape, which looks like this right here, super thin. And it took me a couple of tries to get used to working with that. But it's not that hard, it just takes a little bit to get the hang of it. And like this. So one thing I've done on this tree is I've left some of the new growth on it because that keeps the sap actively going up the tree. Looks like some white flies laid some eggs there. We don't need that. But having this new growth keeps the sap flowing in the tree. And I'm kind of thinking that in addition to grafting these edges where I've cut, I might want to actually graft along the trunk in places where it's tried to branch out and have new growth. That'll be totally new. I haven't done that before. So these pieces don't really need to be that long. The other thing that we need that I don't have out here just yet is some foil, and we'll use the foil to give our graft some shade. So if we have direct sunlight on it, it won't take. At least I don't think it'll take very well anyway. Okay, the next step on this is wrapping our graft. And then we'll tuck it in this wet paper towel. Let me see if you can see my cuttings that I'm working with. So this takes a little bit of practice, but it's not that hard. I'm just gonna wrap this. We only want to have one layer of film over this spot right here because that's where the graft will come out at. But this keeps our cutting from drying out. Because if it dries out, it won't take. And as I work with these, I'm keeping them all going in the same direction. And it's easier if you do this wrapping before you work with the cutting to prepare it to go on the tree. I hope by now that I would have had this whole tree grafted out, but unfortunately I waited until it was too hot to start the project. But some things have to be done at a certain time. It's just how it works out with plants and temperature. But at least 2 of them took, so I know that my technique was correct. And somebody was telling me, oh, you don't need 2 lemon trees, but my husband and I, we could very easily use a lemon every single day. So 2 lemon trees might be a good thing for this household. We probably will get enough lemons on our existing lemon for about a month and a half worth of lemons. So that's not too bad. Whatever we get, we say thank you, right? It's nice out here. I can hear the birds. So peaceful. So now that we have all of our cuttings wrapped, the next thing I want to do is prepare my tree. And an interesting thing to note is these lemon branches. It's Meyer lemon, does not have any thorns. But this mandarin rootstock has lots of thorns, including the new growth has thorns. So we'll be able to tell our lemon cutting growths or grafts from the mandarin rootstock just by the fact that the lemon doesn't have any thorns. And I don't really like these thorns, so I'm kind of pruning them off here just to make working with this tree a little bit safer. So in my initial grafts I did on branches, and I would like to try and graft along the branch, not just where there's a branch shooting out. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this knife and sterilize it. This is a very sharp knife, so we have to be very careful with this. What I'd really like to do is try to graft on some of these areas along the branch in addition to the tops. So I have to be very careful. And we don't want it too close together, right? Like this, I probably, if I would have thought this through, I wouldn't have had this close together. But let's just go ahead and go down just a little bit on our tree. I'm making a very narrow cut here. Carefully. Notice I don't have my hands where I can accidentally slice myself. to do that. Okay, so we're going to have to make a little deeper cut here. And so we're just going to have to wrap more of our tree so it can heal. And then let's take one of these, and peel this back just a little bit, and basically we're just going to split this just enough to fit it over that part right there. You have to be very careful with this part. I don't really think there's too much of a way to do this without cutting towards yourself. So that means you go very slow. Not in a hurry. We're going very slow because we don't want to cut ourselves. And we just need the narrowest slit. And then we want to fit that groove into this. We're just going to be able to do that. There we go. And next, we're going to wrap this with our tape again to secure it. Let's go ahead and wrap over that area where we started the tree too. We really didn't mean for that to happen. Let's just do it that way. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use some duct tape. I haven't seen anybody use duct tape, but what's cool about duct tape is it doesn't come off. And when we first had our lemon tree, we had a different dog, and our dog was a little emotional, and he got mad one day when we left him at home, and he actually ripped a limb off of the lemon tree, and we literally duct taped the limb, and it grew back together, and it saved our limb. So I found that duct tape is actually pretty useful. That, and it'll keep our plastic from coming off. So basically that's what I'm going to do all along this tree. Up and down on the ends of any branches that I can get. These little ones are going to be hard to do, but that's it. That's fundamentally grafting for a lemon anyway. And then when I'm done, I'm going to wrap 4